I'm Chris Stafford, and this is AART, the podcast where we get to know the women behind their art.
If you don't feel it, I'll make you feel it. I'll show you what I mean. If you don't feel it, I'll make you feel it. I'll bring you to your knees. If you follow me.
My guest this week is Cammi Climaco, a ceramicist, multidisciplinary artist, educator, and erstwhile stand-up comedian based in New York. Cammi's art moves between performance, sculptural, and functional pieces, and ruminates on the history of women in ceramics, finding joy in unreachable places and ancient love poems. Cammi was born in Cleveland, Ohio in 1971, the youngest of 6 children. Her father, John Climaco, ran a printing press at a printing company in Ohio, and her mother, Wanda, was a homemaker who later cared for the elderly. Cammi received her BFA at Kent State University in crafts and her MFA in ceramics at Cranbrook Academy of Art. After college, Cammi spent some time in the corporate world, from waitressing to selling furniture and recruiting executives, none of which satisfied her. Eventually, her part-time teaching in ceramics led to her becoming a regular educator in her preferred medium. She has taught at the Pratt Institute of Art and Design and the 92NY in Manhattan, and currently also teaches at Brooklyn Clay. Cammi attended the pottery workshop residency in Yingdenzhen in China, and she also is the co-host of the Ceramics Podcast. Her work can be found in galleries and theatres in New York. Cammi lives in Queens with her partner, musician Crew Jones. Cammi, hi, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is such an honor, and I love your podcast so much.
Well, that's very kind of you. And you are part of a really cool little group of artists there in New York, because you were nominated by your good friend Christian Joy.
Yes.
And you also know Michelle Im, who's also been on the show.
Yes.
So I feel like we're starting a club here, Cammi.
I know it. I was like, oh, what's going to I'm like, who's going to be after this? Like, what's going to happen? Where is this going? It's awesome. I love it.
Well, we're extending it further, beyond what people regard as conventional artists, because there are so many women artists in so many different disciplines these days that don't get the recognition they deserve.
I want to say especially in ceramics, but I feel like that's really changed over the years. Like, I think women are really like running ceramics now. I want to think that.
Yeah, I think people are starting. Yes, clearly. I mean, you do produce some beautiful, beautiful work, which is a little bit unusual. And I like that uniqueness of your artwork, which we will share through the show notes with this episode. As our listeners will know, you can go and find Cammi's work after you've listened to the podcast. But Cammi, let's start with it all beginning now, because you are full-time. You were telling me you have 3 teaching studios there in New York. You are one busy lady.
Oh my, yes, it's ridiculous. I teach at 3 different places. I teach at a place called Brooklyn Clay, which is in Prospect Heights, Brooklyn, and also they have a location in Tribeca. And then I teach at a place called Greenwich House Pottery, which is in the West Village. It's a very old institution, like 120 something years old. And then I teach at Hofstra University, which is in Long Island, and that's college kids.
Where does the teaching background come from then, Cammi? Because I think of you as an artist, and so many artists do teach, but where does that inclination for teaching come from?
Gosh, it's so crazy. I think, when I first got out of graduate school, I was invited to teach sabbatical replacement at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And I was like 28. And I got there and I just didn't love teaching. It was just, I don't know. I thought I was just I just wanted to make my own work, or I just wasn't ready. But then years and years later, maybe in like speed forward, that was in 1998. And then in like 2009, my friend asked me if I wanted to teach at Pratt. And I was like freelancing at the time. And I was like, sure, I'll teach a class at Pratt, just beginning ceramics. And then I found that I really loved it. I love teaching, and I just sort of like fell in love with it then. But, I think that there's I think you need to be ready for it. I think there's like a bottomless generosity that comes with it, that you have to be able to give and give a lot, especially to, college students who, they're just finding out who they are, and they're just sort of exploring, and, you kind of have a responsibility. And I feel like also teaching is really, there's like so much performing in teaching that I sort of just fell right into it.
So it sounds like you're loving it. There's a smile of satisfaction. I can see it, Cammi.
Yeah, I do love it now. Yeah. I mean, of course it has its ups and downs where you're just like, oh my God, like what is happening? And then, sometimes a class can get away from you. Like a whole class can get away from you, and then you kind of have to try to get it back, or just be like, all right, I'll get them next time. So yeah, but so it's really, really hard. It's really, really draining. But yes, I love my job. I love it.
How do you divide your time then between your own artwork and teaching?
That's a great question. I usually try to spend I have off maybe 1 day a week or 2 days, a whole day. I try to pack on with all the teaching in a couple days. But, and then I'll teach at night so I can be in the studio during the day, or, vice versa. So just kind of pack it in. And I don't really teach on the weekends now. I don't need to, but I also don't really work in the studio on the weekends either. So I like to have some time away from the studio as well, where it's just zoning out time, or just unwind time.
Yeah, some me time, as it's called today, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And what does me time look like?
Oh my gosh. Well, my partner and I went to the beach basically both days, Saturday and Sunday, every single weekend, all summer long, where we just sat there and read books, or just sat there. And so that was pretty nice. But now that that's over, I'm not sure what the weekends are going to look like. I have no idea. But, we're not really sit around people except at the beach. So we'll see. But I'm also learning how to play the banjo right now. I just bought a banjo, and I just have been learning how to play ukulele. So I just fill it with other hobbies.
Does music play a big part in your life then? Do you have music in the studio?
Well, I do. I play a lot of music in the studio. I also play a lot of podcasts, hours and hours and hours and hours of podcasts. Maybe it's more podcasts now than music in the studio. But music plays a huge part in my life now, because my partner is a musician. So he's always playing guitar and, figuring out songs and all that stuff. So it's just a sort of catchy as well. So you just sort of I took guitar lessons when I was 7 to 12. And so I just sort of was okay, well, that's probably still in my brain somewhere. So I just try to pick it up and do YouTube tutorials. It's actually pretty fun.
You also learned to podcast too.
Yeah. So my friend Gus Hamilton and I started a podcast in 2019, right before COVID, right before lockdown. And so we launched the podcast in March of whatever year that was, 2020. And then we were immediately in lockdown. So the podcast actually went kind of it was kind of great because we had something to do. But yeah, I taught myself all the whatever we needed to know about podcasting from YouTube, every Googled every single tiny thing on how to learn how to do it. And yeah. And so then I produced and edited it.
So here you are in podcast land. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about your background as an artist, or let's start with your childhood, because you mentioned your mother was an art hobbyist too.
Yes.
So was it a creative home that you grew in, and with a large family? You had several sisters and a brother.
Yes, I was the youngest of 6. Yeah. My mom was very traditional homemaker, housewife homemaker. And she, I think she grew up in Alabama, and she learned, she loved music and learned how to play guitar, and she loved art and would draw and, do all the things. So yeah, I think she really, she was really excited that I could draw really well. So I think she just kind of noticed that I could draw okay when I was 4. And then from there, I sort of just started she would put me in art classes or whatever. So then I just got, I think I just got really interested in it. And she would draw with me or whatever, because she had so much time, because all the other kids were so much older. So she had time to just sit with me and do whatever, draw for hours, or we would always make things, make crafts, and, make things out of Quaker Oats jar cans, the cardboard tubes or whatever. So everything was just we were always making something, or I was always making something.
Any of your siblings as inclined towards art as you are?
I don't think they ever were they never were I'm going to be an artist someday, but they all were sort of creative in their own ways. But they're not they're not artists, but they are they do have a design eye, or very good handwriting, exceptionally good at calligraphy or something like that. Yeah. So they my sister does needle points, or, another sister does, another sister was really into floral arranging, and then another one was into calligraphy. So it was just sort of that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's normal. It seems kind of normal. I don't know.
And your father ran a printing press. So was there some artistic skill there in terms of printing?
Not really. He was more of he worked in a kind of a factory setting where he ran a printing press. So it was more, he thought he was more of a tradesman as opposed to an artist, creative.
So was there any doubt then what you would do? Were you so influenced and so motivated as a child then, and when you became a teenager, that you pretty much decided what your pathway would be?
I mean, in high school, I was taking art classes, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, but I just, at some point I was I guess I'm going to be an artist. And I also was I want to be a writer, I want to be an artist, but it was never I want to be an accountant or I want to be a lawyer. It was always something that was probably not going to make me any money. But my parents really, really, really wanted me to be a nurse or a school teacher, because they were born, in the early 30s, where women really just were nurses or school teachers. So that was really the only thing they could know, that I would be probably okay if I didn't get married. So, yeah. So I wanted to be an artist. And so I went to school. My senior year of high school, my art teacher, who was not a great art teacher, she was the worst. And it's so art teachers are so important, really. I had her for so many years, even through middle school. And then she switched to be the high school teacher. So the only person she brought to our school in my senior year, of course, was a potter. And I don't know why she decided to bring him. I don't know. it just was a weird coincidence. But he set up his wheel and was like making all these pots. And I was like, I want to do that. And then that's how I became a ceramics major. So I like just went into undergrad at Kent State University. I just declared my major ceramics. Like, that's what it's going to be. And I didn't even touch clay. I didn't even know if I'd be good at it. Like,
what was it about the feel of it then, and the physicality of playing with clay, or more than playing with clay? But at that point, what was it that attracted you and appealed to you to the medium?
So I think I got to take my first ceramics classes like my second semester, and I liked it, but I didn't love it. But I did love my teacher. My undergraduate teacher, his name was Kirk Mangus.
Oh, so there was a crush going on here.
I know it wasn't really a crush. I wouldn't say love and yeah. I mean, I would say it's like a art crush.
The teacher crush?
Yeah, the teacher crush, as opposed to the love, sexual crush, because it wasn't. That's no, no. But yeah, as a mentor, 100%, huge. So he actually would sit in the class and, read us poetry and talk to us about about life and, how to be an artist, which was actually more important to me than what I was actually making, which wasn't even that great my first semester or second or third. But, the more you do it, the better you get at it. So it kind of got better.
What kind of things was he sharing with you that impressed you about being an artist?
I think, it was more how to think like an artist, what to look at, what to read, what's exciting, what is bad, who he respected as an artist. And he was cool. He was so cool. He just had this I don't give a fuck kind of attitude, but loved being there, loved being a teacher, loved making art. And he would be in his studio just working on his pieces, and just watching him do that was really fantastic and exciting. And his studio was in the middle of our ceramic studio, his personal studio. So you would just see him working all the time. And he was really generous with his time. You could ask him anything at any time, and there was no an on-off switch where he wasn't available to you.
So what were your biggest takeaways then? As you said, art teachers, they really do leave an impression. They're really important.
Definitely, yeah.
In guiding you down your career path. So what would you say are your biggest takeaways that you're now sharing with your students?
That's so the funny part is, I was a terrible, terrible student. I was just I was really maybe very immature and not really ready. I shouldn't have gone to college. I should have right out of high school. I should have just waited until I was a little bit, had it together a little bit more. But I did. So I can't take that back. So I think with my students, I try to get them to just be mindful of what they're doing. And if you're going to do something, kind of do your best. Put whatever you put into it is what you're going to get out of it, is basically my biggest, what I try to impart the most, especially when you're doing a craft. It's in ceramics, you're doing you're doing three things at the same time. You're sort of doing design, and you're doing art, and you're doing a craft, which depends on craftsmanship. So I think I really try to, at least if you don't want to get into the art or the design part, at least be a really good craftsman. You know what I mean? So just, take care and pay attention to what you're doing. Is kind of what I try to talk about a lot, is this like holy grail style of craftsmanship where you're constantly striving to get better and better and better and better and better. And it's like for my students that just want to like ceramics hobby, it's a lot. Like, it's a lot. You know what I mean? I'm like, always like, oh yeah, that's good. But imagine if you would have spent 2 more minutes on it or 10 more minutes on it, it would have been great. So it's just like, it's really fun.
And what else was distracting you then when you were a student?
Oh my God. Well, I think because I was in such like I grew up in a really, really, really small town. Like my high school only had 200 people total in grades 9 through 12. And there were only 60 kids in my graduating class. So when I got to this like college with 25,000 people, I was just like, it was like being let loose on the world. Like I just wanted to like meet everybody and like see everything and go do everything and just all those things except go to class. Like I wanted to do everything except go to class. So it was, I also maybe had a little bit of undiagnosed ADD or ADHD. Just now I think I probably had a pretty short attention span sitting in class for like lectures. But yeah, I loved college. I just didn't but I loved the art classes. So I should have really gone to art school, like art, you know what I mean? Like a Institute of Art or something.
Was there anything else? Are there any other subjects that you enjoyed in school, in drama or sports or anything?
Not specifically, but I was a crafts major. So I would take like glass blowing classes and fiber arts and metal, like jewelry and metalsmithing, aside from ceramics. So anything like that, I was all in. Like jewelry, I loved it. Glass blowing, loved it. Fiber, I was like, okay, but yeah, glass blowing and jewelry, I was just like totally like all in. Like at some point, I probably would have. I don't know if I would have stayed in ceramics. I have no idea. But what also happened was I went to exchange. I went on exchange to Nova Scotia College of Art and Design because my teacher knew the ceramics teacher there, and thought that would be a good place for me to do my exchange program year, like that semester. So I went there, and I didn't love my ceramics teacher, which was not the ceramics teacher my teacher wanted me to take. It was a different teacher. He was very, it's just a little stiff, and there wasn't a lot of space for me. So I didn't do well in that class, but I had taken another class with this teacher named Gary Kennedy that was a bookmaking class. And then he was a fluxus artist. And then I just fell in love with that. So after that semester on exchange, I went back to Kent State, and I was just going to switch my major to sculpture. But my ceramics teacher was like, hey, I didn't see you on my roster, so I just went ahead and signed you up. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to get out of ceramics easily. So yeah, so I did fall in love with fluxus art and kind of text-based art as well.
But the sculpting and the glasswork, maybe, is that in your future, do you think? You might turn to that at some point?
God, I have no idea. I have no idea. That's a great question. I hope I don't get into glass blowing, but maybe it's just something that you have to have a glass studio to do. Do you know what I mean? So you always have to go to that glass studio. Yeah. So it's not something you would just do on your own in your own studio.
Yeah. It's a big undertaking, isn't it? But I know many artists, they just would like to try something else, have a go at it, and, continuing to grow and explore different mediums. And I almost feel that's in you, that you've had a taste of it, and there's things that you still could do.
Yes. I mean, back in 2010, 2010, 2011-ish. My friend, I was having dinner every weekend at my friend's house. He would like have a dinner party and the same people would be there almost every week. And my friend David Kreb and I would just be making jokes through the whole thing. Like, I don't know, just like ridiculous, just sort of like making fun of this or like make like really like quips. And so I was like, or we both were like, we should take a stand-up comedy class. And so we took the stand-up comedy class, but we didn't, it wasn't stand-up comedy, it was storytelling. Because he was like, this guy from the state, that this like comedy troupe, the state was teaching storytelling. And so we took the storytelling class and, you know, we sort of just like loved it. And then that turned into 4 years of us like performing and storytelling. And then, yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if I switched mediums is what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, we had a storytelling show, like a monthly show, and we had a podcast, and yeah, it was like pretty crazy. And we were performing like 3 or 4 times a week.
Was that improv?
It wasn't improv. It was like really, truly like, it was like kind of the Moth style storytelling.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Which I am not really like that good of like a storyteller, but I did love telling jokes.
Were you the party girl in college?
No, not at all. Not really. Yeah.
But you enjoyed the social scene?
Yes, like the first time I actually did any sort of even public speaking was in that class. And I was so nervous. I thought like my legs were shaking so bad. I was literally peeing myself. Like when you're so nervous that you're just like, and so, yeah, I was like 38. I'd never even like done any performing at all.
How did you overcome that then? What was the breakthrough?
Well, yeah, then the first time you do it, you know, the adrenaline, when the first time you hear people laughing at your jokes, it's just like the adrenaline. It's like euphoric. And so then it's just like, okay, I want that. I want that again. So then you just keep going, you know, then you sort of like build off of that. No
pressure, but are you going to tell us a joke?
God, no.
All right, I'll leave you to think about that before we wrap the show here.
I don't really have any jokes. Yeah. Oh, I do have one ceramics joke that I keep telling. I just want to be like a potter in the woods, like just with like 250,000 followers on Instagram. That's my ceramics joke.
How different would your career be if you didn't have social media, do you think?
That's a great question. It's really, I find social media as like an artist, you know, when you're working alone in your studio. And yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are working alone in their studios, and it really just gives you a community and like a platform and just a way of like existing in this world as an artist. I like it. But there's also some like drawbacks about it too. For some, like if I'm like doing something on this pottery wheel, for example, like doing like a video of me being on the pottery wheel and then I put it on Instagram or like TikTok or something, I almost feel like that is the art. Like that's the piece. Like it's done. Like I don't actually need to finish it because that's what it is what it is. So it has like stalled me in a lot of like completing pieces, but I've kind of eased up on it and like really refocused. Just like on posting, like posting. So on like creating content really. So, you know, also you have to like know kind of who you are in that space. Like, are you a content, like, do I want to be a social media content creator, or am I an artist that is trying to make objects that exist in the world, or like what am I doing? And I think when you're working in something like ceramics, that's like this ancient thing. This like, you know, when you're doing sort of an atavistic action where you're doing something. And who knows if like, and I've thought about it a lot, like, do we even need to do ceramics? Like, why are we even doing it? I mean, I think about it a lot. So, I mean, it's just such a weird, like, tech thing is that you're just like performing for this like audience, your audience of your followers, and then you're also doing this thing that is like really creating objects like that last thousands of years. So it's these two different, really crazy, disparate things. I don't know what the answer is, but.
You've mentioned that word a couple of times, performing to your students or performing to your audience in some way.
Yeah.
Where's the satisfaction for you in the work that you do, both as a teacher and as an artist?
That's a great question. I mean, when my students when they kind of have like a breakthrough moment where they actually like set out to make a thing and they made the thing that they set out to make and they're so excited about it. That's like so, that's what like teaching is for, like that moment. Or, like, especially when you're like teaching beginning ceramics, when they like accomplish this thing that, you showed them how to do it. You've like coached them through it and then they do it. And you're like, it's just like this huge, like, yes moment. Like you did it. Like, it's so great. So I think that's like the most important thing about teaching. Yeah, definitely. Like look at this thing that you did. And I think, it's like, and like everyone in the class feels it, when one person is like, oh, and then everyone's like people clap. I mean, it's so fun. It's like such a great feeling for everyone.
And probably as a teacher, you can assess students, their level of talent, their gift as an artist, and whether art has found them or they chose art. But I'm wondering if that was the case with you, whether you chose art or it chose you, because it seems like the perfect marriage.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a good question. I think everyone does have a different level of what they want to accomplish or what they want to get out of their ceramics practice, specifically ceramics. And so you just sort of like take every student at like where they are. Do you know what I mean? So like there's always like little victories when you're working, especially on the pottery wheel. So there's that. But for me, I feel like I'm not sure if like I was just always kind of like tracked into art. And then, I mean, it was also like, like my whole childhood and adult life. I mean, early, like young adult life was like making art. And then all of a sudden my parents are like, we want you to be like a nurse. And I was like, there was like no way I would ever do that, like be a nurse. I'm just not a nurse. Like, that's just not who I am. So it was just like, wait, what do you even mean? Like, I don't know. So I'm not sure if I was like tracked into it a little bit or if I chose it. I'm not sure. But definitely now I definitely chose it. Now I think that I definitely don't know how to do anything else. So I'm kind of like going to stick with it.
But when you graduated, where did you head to at that point, Cammi? What was next?
Yeah, as I said, I went to North Carolina and taught for a semester. And then all my friends were moving to New York. So I moved to New York City and just got a job waitressing and got a studio with a couple friends and just sort of tried to like be an artist. And it was like a hustle. But then my partner at the time was a graphic designer, and it was like, right during the like .com boom. And so I was like struggling working as a waitress, and he was a graphic designer during the .com boom and just like got out of grad school and just was like doing websites for Nike. I mean, it was like bananas. So yeah, it was just like a weird time to get out of school and like be an artist in New York, where honestly, nobody wanted to look at ceramics at all. Like not even a little bit. And even, I didn't have a kiln. I just sort of started making anything that was not ceramics, because I bought myself an airbrush and I started doing airbrush drawings. And then from the airbrush drawings, I started doing sculptures and then some text art. And then for like 8 years, I didn't really do ceramics because I just didn't have a kiln. And to run the kiln at that point was like, thousands of dollars. So I just was like, I don't know if I want to like put that kind of money into a studio that I'm renting. And so, so I just like made sculpture. And then, when I got hired at Pratt, the head of the ceramics department interviewed me, and he was like, I don't know if you're going to get this job because you don't do ceramics. Cause I was like showing him my portfolio. I was like, yeah, but I like studied it.
Was that enough for him?
He was like, he was just kind of like, he was funny. Yes, it turned out to be enough, but it was like, I got a scholarship. I went to Cranbrook Academy of Art for graduate school, and I got this Howard Kotler scholarship. Howard Kotler was an artist who had gone to Cranbrook and taught at the University of Washington. And so the Howard Kotler scholarship, Howard Kotler was the guy who was interviewing me. Howard Kotler was his teacher. And that's all he just saw that I got that scholarship. And, he like, just as like Kirk Mangus was a mentor to me, Howard Kotler was like a mentor to him. So it didn't matter. Like I had the job because of that, just because it said Howard Kotler on my resume. I swear that's what did it.
At what point then was the breakthrough that you realized you could actually make a living out of being a ceramicist?
That was like, that's so in like, she's like 10 years ago, I actually was getting a divorce, and I was just sort of like floundering. I was just sort of starting from scratch. Literally, I was like, I had no money or very, very little money. And I was like 40 and just trying to like figure out what to do. Like I have no idea, like nothing, so I kept, I was taking jobs that I, maybe shouldn't have been in or had. And then I was sort of like, just trying to figure it out. Like I was like selling furniture and like selling high-end furniture, and then working at working at a thrift store, and then working in like, what's it called? Recruitment for like executives for the furniture design industry. And like, I had not like these corporate jobs. Like I just kept like being like, no, not this one. No, not this one. And then I was like, why, like these corporate, like I'm not succeeding. Like I'm not happy. I was so miserable. And then, but while I was teaching, like I never gave up teaching. So I would just go teach my one class at ceramics. And then I would like go to my corporate job or whatever job during the day. And then like every week I just would teach. So then finally I got fired from the recruiting job, which like was good and bad. It was bad because like nobody wants to get fired, but it was good because it was like the best thing that ever happened to me. So I like realized like 100% I should not be in a corporate job, like sitting at a computer all day. Like that's just not who I am. But I was teaching. I still had this one night teaching, and the guy across from me, Gus Hamilton, was like, "Hey, they're opening a studio in Brooklyn Heights. I'm sorry, Prospect Heights, called Brooklyn Clay. Do you want to come teach there?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I was like, "Yeah, what else am I going to do?" So I was teaching there, and then they gave me another class, and then at the 92nd Street Y, I got another class, and so then it just sort of like it's kind of snowballed from there. But to be honest, like I hadn't even made ceramics for real. And so like so many years that, my teaching, like my ceramic skills were just sort of like, not great. So I just really even like really brushed up on that. And I just like became like the best teacher I could possibly be by like just reading every single book and like practicing. So that's kind of how it went.
And you had the job security.
I mean, there's really no job security, and there's no job security. Like you just kind of take classes as they come or give up classes that you can't teach because of your schedule. Like you try to make your schedule be the best. So, I mean, I'm a freelancer, so there's really no like, it's scary, but it is what it is.
And in terms of your art, then you were developing your own style in ceramics. What were those influences, Cammi, for you?
This is like one of my favorite things to look back on. So when I was like teaching all these classes, and I was just teaching beginning wheel and a lot of beginning wheel and beginning pottery wheel. So I was like trying to, as I said, I was like wanted to be a better teacher. And so I was like doing more and more involved things on the wheel. And then I was like, then it became like, well, I want to be really, really good at this. Like, I want to be, I want to be the best at this. And so I put like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours in, and really like sharpen those skills. At the same time, I was like, I had studio time. And so I was just like, I had no idea what to make or how to start making work after like 5 years of really not making anything. And then those 5 years, I mean, I was really doing a lot of like writing and performing and storytelling and stand-up comedy. And like, I would be doing a performance in a gallery, and I would be here or there, or in an art gallery, or I would be like in a theater or in a club, in a bar. Like it was just a wild ride. And so I just hadn't really made any like physical objects, and it just had no starting place. So that practice on the wheel really gave me like just a focus. And then when you're working and just trying to like improve your skills, as I was, your mind can float. So you can think about, like, I would think about like what I wanted this and that to look like. And so, I really just started like looking at tons and tons and tons of like pictures of ceramics and just pictures of art and just everything, just like, and then writing, like noting, making files and files and files of things that, I was like responding to, and then sort of picking those things out and kind of building a voice from that.
In the wider world, were there any artists of any genre who were influencing you, who you were particularly drawn to in terms of their style?
I mean, there's always, that's a great question. There's always people like, there's like the long time artists that I love. Like I've always loved since I took that Fluxus class at in Nova Scotia College of Art and Design. I've like loved Yoko Ono, and I've loved Fluxism. And then there's people that like whose work I admire, like Barry Zipperstein, and there's so many people that you're just like, I love their work. I love their, their work. But I'm trying to think, like my friend Cara Benedetto is like I'm like a huge fan of hers. I'm trying to think, like, I should have made a pre-list of everybody that I love, because it would just be like a forever list. I'm trying to think of like people that, like long term. So this doesn't even have to do with anything, but when I was like really young, my mom and I went to my mom is from Alabama. So we like spent the summer in Alabama, and we just came across a Dorothea Lange show. And so I like remembered seeing those photographs and being so like crazy moved by them. I was like, you know, like the desolation of the Great Depression. And so that show was at MoMA a couple years ago, and I saw it again, and I was like, wow, like same feeling. It was like this weird, like I saw these when I was so young, and then the same emotional reaction so much later on. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff like that.
What do you like to hear about your work?
Yeah, that's a really good question. What do I like to hear about it? Yesterday, one of my students told me that my work, she was trying to find the right word because I just put some pictures up on Instagram, and she was like, I saw your pieces of your new work on Instagram and they're really tight. And I was like, yeah, good. Okay, good. That's great. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know I don't really know what's like what I want to hear. That's such a crazy question. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, you know, like, I think the worst thing would be like, oh, that piece was really funny. But like, yeah, but it would be like, that piece is really funny. But when they say funny, the NY at the end is like funny. So it's not at all. So it really fell flat. But yeah.
But how would you describe your art then? Your actual ceramics now that you're producing and you're posting. You have a name for it?
Well, yeah, I mean, the work. So for the last 2 years, I've really been trying to like level up my craftsmanship, and I really haven't made that many pieces, right? So I've just been like, I would make the thing, like destroy it, remake it, destroy it, remake it remake it so many times until it's perfect. And so now, after 2 years, I finally have like emerged with this new work, which I haven't really posted pictures of yet, but it's basically like, it's not really storytelling, but it is like a little bit of, like, I would consider it like a moment of like character development, or like a series of objects that would evoke a scene and an emotion at the same time. Does that make sense? So it's not really, so like I'm working on a piece that's about a hangover. So it's like, it's the next day, the morning after like a big night out. And it's just like a foot bath, basically, where there's like a stool and a pitcher and some like detritus from the night before, where you're just trying to like wake up and feel good. So there's a little bit of like, I think there's a little bit of like self-awareness, like definitely a lot of self-awareness, but a little bit of like new agey sort of like self-healing in objects is what I kind of, and there's like a little bit of like ritual, and which is like, you know, in the history of ceramics, like ritual is so important, and it is like ritual is, could be argued it is the history of ceramics. So there's like a lot of like, you know, memorials and rituals and, markers.
And if you go out to galleries and museums, what are you looking for? Is it ceramics, or is it just general art education now?
Yes. I like to look at just anything. Yeah, everything, anything. I love going to museums. Like, I'm really into like looking at ancient I love looking at ancient pottery and when you see sort of something that's like 25,000 from like 25,000 BCE, and you're just like, wow. But I also love watching video. I love watching art video, love it. So I can really get into anything really, whatever. You're always looking for the thing that's just going to move, something that's going to catch your attention, hold your attention, and then move you in a way that is unexpected. So yeah, just looking for that really.
Yeah, that's true.
Something from somebody that, that is, they're trying to tell you this thing, and whatever that thing is, or they're just this feeling, or this, just reminds you of a thing.
Now, we know that you value your downtime. So what's your idea of a good night out?
Oh, wow. I really, a really good night out now that I'm 51. I just like to go to a restaurant and have someone cook dinner for me and then go home and maybe eat ice cream and then go home. I don't know. We sometimes me and my partner love to go see live music. So we do go to see a lot of bands, a lot of bands. So that's pretty fun. And even if it's bad, it's still fun. And I think that goes with just the experience is you don't know until you're there. Sometimes we've been in situations where we'll go see a band that's you think it's going to be so bad. And then you're like, what just happened? That was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. So you never know. And that goes with theater and comedy, or, you just never know what you're going to get. And, don't judge it until it's over. So you're whew, what? You're either going to be whew, that was amazing, or whew, that was just the worst thing I've ever seen. And I hope I never have to do that again. It's still sort of the same. Whew.
Is that how you feel when you go out on the dance floor now? Do you let rip?
Yeah, in 5-minute intervals every 2 hours.
Short bursts.
Yeah, I still still like to cut it up. Yeah, sure.
So finally, Cammi, where can we find your artwork? Is your work open in a gallery or a studio where people can visit?
Yeah, that's a great question. Oh yeah, so I think right now you can just go to my website, which is cammiclimaco.com. And then just check it out and see. I usually keep everything kind of updated on the website.
And they can sign up for your courses.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Also, yeah, and just follow Instagram too. Just check out, because I'll always post what I'm where and when I'm teaching.
And what's next for you? Do you have a vision of where you're heading with all of your creativity?
Well, that's a great question. I feel like I'm just going to I have a couple really nice group shows coming up. So I'm excited about that. And I'm really excited to get this new work out in the world. Honestly, it's I'm really excited. I'm really actually proud of the pieces that I made in a way that I don't think I've experienced before. So in my whole life.
Oh, that's enormously satisfying. Yes.
Yeah, I feel really good about it.
Well done, you.
Thanks. It's it feels like a big deal.
And can we find you doing more stand-up comedy?
No, 100% no.
Oh, okay. Okay. Maybe there's a little YouTube video there.
After this, I'm going on YouTube and taking it all down. No, I don't know. No, I mean, yeah, I have the podcast. There's a bunch of jokes on the podcast. So,
and remind everybody what the name of that podcast is.
That's called the Ceramics Podcast.
And we'll put links in our show notes, as always, to Cammi's social media, to website, and to the podcast. Cammi, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Chris, thank you so much. It was fun to be on the other side, and your questions are amazing, and I feel great. Thank you so much.
And I hope you'll take a moment to visit Cammi's website. The link, of course, is in our show notes. and also a link to our social media. On Instagram, we're at the AART Podcast, that's art with 2 A's, where you can leave any comments, any questions, any suggestions for guests, because we would love to hear who you would like to hear from on the show. You can also leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts if you have a moment. We always appreciate that. Thank you again to my guest, Cammi Climaco, and to you for listening. I'll be back next week with another guest, so I do hope you'll join me then.